It was one of those days to get a surprising topic to talk about on one of these videos. But yesterday, a very weird piece went up on PC Gamer asking in the title, do game developers need a game design degree? And it kind of set off a lot of developers and yours truly. The short answer to that one is a resounding no. But, guess that's a whole video. We're done here, right? Oh, I guess we still have more to discuss. But we're not going to be linking the article because there's not much value in it for this discussion. However, there is a greater topic to be had about what are important skills or things you need to learn when it comes to game development. And that is a lot harder and more complicated to answer. Now, for those of you who are on the younger side, the idea of having a formal education when it comes to game development didn't really start to crystallize until the last decade. Beforehand, or previously, if you wanted to go to school to learn game design, you had to go to a technical college or something that specifically caters to it, with the biggest example being Full Sail University. But over the last decade, as game design or video games cemented itself as a major industry and institution, we started to see more colleges and schools open up about having game design programs and courses. With that said, though, the problem is that there is no such thing as a formal game design degree or license or anything that we can say officially qualifies you as a game developer. In a piece I wrote for Medium that I'll try to include a link to somewhere at this point, I talked about this as part of the science of game design. And the fact that there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all checklist of you must learn this, and this, and then you're a successful game developer. Every game designer, especially in an independent space, has their own story and path of how they made their first game and got into it. I've spoken to developers who lived in a tree house for years as an example to make their first game. Another group who literally toured around the world as a way of cutting down expenses, kind of living in as many areas at low budget or low economy as possible. With Battle Brothers over there, I think the developers had a law or business degree background before they decided to go into game development with the game. But the point is that there's nothing that can really train you, or none that's required training, I should say, when it comes to learning to make a video game. Now, here's a very important question. I think this will probably have some very interesting comments down below if you're watching this in the premiere. That a lot of people have cited game jams as being an essential part of learning how to make a game. And in all honesty, I don't agree with that. While a game jam can certainly help you in terms of that first step of the process of making a game, it doesn't really, I think, represent game development as a whole. Especially if we're talking about the first time developer or somebody trying to work hard on a game. We're talking, 9 months to over a year easily on your first or major title. And in this regard, this is where having a formal understanding of game design can be a little wishy-washy. Because again, whoever is teaching a course on game development or running a program has their own background when it comes to making a game. And what worked for them may not necessarily work for you. But even with that said, as we've looked at and discussed many times here on the channel, on Game Wisdom with the podcast, I do think there is a core or at least a basic set of skills that anyone who's trying to make a successful game should pay attention to. And even with that said, it can still be hard to kind of ground that, because a lot of what goes into game development is also representative of the market. A really great example of this, of course, is the rise of marketing and social media as part of your game dev background. Again, 8 to 10 years ago, when Steam was still just this little tiny thing, there was only a few ways of having a central storefront, you could just put your game on Steam or get it on there and you were guaranteed a good amount of sales. Today, regardless of when you're watching this video, I'm sure at least 50 to 100 games have been released all across the platforms. And I'm sure things will change even going further in the next 5 to 10 years. But with that said, we're going to do our quick Patreon supporter and sponsor shout out now. And when we return, we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of what are some of like the most basic, we're talking design 100 skills that you should have when it comes to trying to be a game developer, and can they be applied across the board? And if you have any ideas for some, let me know in the comments down below. But I will see you all in a second. And now a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom sponsors and Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, link down below. As we said in the last part, when it comes to trying to create like a formal game design course or a game design degree, everybody has their own way of getting into the game industry. And what that also means is that their own way of understanding or developing a title. No two games and no two game studios work in the same way, even if they make similar games or genres. As we've said, there is no such thing as that BioWare magic or Nintendo secret sauce or anything like that that just kind of happens or is a mystery about why that game succeeds or not. But with that said, if we want to try and drill down into what is behind a successful game, I do think there are some basic things that are at work here. So when I think about this and trying to put into words, this can be on the tough side. But the first thing is very much having an understanding about UI design. Being able to look at a game and design something that is easy on the eyes, that is approachable, and even something that can explain what is going on screen. From there, you should have an understanding about playtesting, being able to accept feedback, and also understanding how to process what that feedback is. From a gameplay point of view, this again is where I think it becomes almost impossible, because again, every game is different. But being able to explain to someone how your game works is a very underutilized aspect. It goes into elements of tutorial design, UI, and of course onboarding. It's one of those areas that I frequently see independent developers tend to fail on, especially compared to AAA teams. With Mario Odyssey over here, Nintendo again has always been one of the best developers at onboarding new players into a game without, it's hard to, for lack of a better term, forgetting about their expert fans. And I could go into a whole discussion about subjective difficulty right now, but I'll resist that. Another major point we said at the end of the last part, again, is the PR and marketing side, which again has become more and more important over this past decade. And this is one of those things that when it comes to a game design course or degree, it's very hard. And the reason is that when we look at what most people consider to be quote-unquote game development or building a game, they will focus on the art or the programming side, because those are hard skills. If somebody wants to learn art, you can teach them what it means to do drawing or to use programs on your computer. If you want to learn programming, you can teach them whatever programming language you want. I'm sure a few of my regulars are going to start laughing at my description there. But again, how do you teach someone gameplay? Why is Mario Odyssey, this footage that you're seeing right now, why is it so interesting and so engaging to play? Again, these are conversations that it's very hard to put into words why, and it's very hard to explain this to different games. Why did so many people play Getting Over with Bennett Foddy? What was the draw of The Return of the Obra Dinn versus a game like The Binding of Isaac? Again, you can't really explain to someone exactly in a one-size-fits-all manner why a great game is a great game. And with that said, another major thing that I think should be like the basics for game design, like this is one that a lot of educators I think will agree with as well, is some kind of explanation or discussion about psychology. What attracts somebody to something? What deattracts or demotivates them from playing a game? What are pleasing colors, symbology, and so on and so forth? And again, these are things that depending upon who you are and what your background is, you are either probably nodding your head in agreement or scratching your head as to why I'm talking about. And again, that's kind of the point. I do think there should be more focus on educating people about game design. Again, that's pretty much been my mission statement for Game Wisdom these past few years. But in terms of having that gatekeeper of saying, you must go to school and get at least a bachelor's in game design to work at a studio and make your own game, I don't think that is going to work. And again, how do you know that the person you're going to be learning from has that background to help you? And we've seen this again with how some schools will maybe hire like a grad student to teach a course. Or again, if you have someone trying to teach you about game design who's never actually shipped a finished game, or somebody who maybe only works in the tabletop industry or card game industry. And again, that's not discounting those specific professions. But if you want to learn how to make a video game, you should probably talk to somebody who has done just that. And finding people, and this is again its own topic, but finding people to do that is also very hard. I remember talking to a colleague who was actually teaching where she was working at a college, and they were looking for more people to run a program. And she told me that one of the issues is that for the people who teach game design or video games, they are either teachers who haven't really done too much in terms of game development, or game developers who haven't really done too much in terms of teaching. Finding somebody who's going to be a teacher as well as a game developer is almost like the old standard of trying to find that magical unicorn. And again, there are those out there. But are there enough to be at every major school and college? Probably not. And again, this is why having an official standpoint or official rules as to who is or who isn't a game developer isn't going to work. But as we've said over the course of this video, there are common elements that everyone needs to know. Especially if you're trying to learn why people love Nintendo games so much. Why is there so much an interest in roguelike design? What is such the big deal about loot boxes and cosmetic elements? These are common discussions that can apply to a variety of games and helps to grow your understanding again of that quote-unquote man behind the mirror, man behind the curtain when it comes to game design. And being able to look at a game like that should be the goal of any course or program on game design. Being able to describe why a game works, not because it's quote-unquote fun or that you like it, but why those game mechanics and systems came together in such a way. Being able to understand why the developer did X instead of just loving or hating it. And again, we're hitting a lot of topics right now that can turn into multi-hour discussions. And I would love to have somebody who actually teaches a course on game design because that's a good hour and a half, 2 hours easily. But thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, Worries in the Art and Science of Games. And I hope next time we'll have a far easier topic to discuss. But until then, take care. If you're looking for a book on design, my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, is out now. It is available where most books are sold, and it comes in paper, hardcover, or digital copies. This is the perfect book for anyone interested in learning about game design, whether you are a student, enthusiast, or just a fan. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.